video, a keto supplement so powerful it makes protein practically obsolete and helps CKD patients avoid dialysis. Catherine here, I'm a doctor of natural medicine and today is my favorite kind of day. Q&A time! Because I get to answer your questions, the real, raw, unfiltered stuff. Today we're tackling phosphorus, one of the most dangerous toxins in kidney disease. And also magnesium, the overlooked mineral that could be your best ally. And a life-changing keto supplement with the power to delay dialysis. Now, before we dive in, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and obsessively mention my videos to every single human being who dares make eye contact with you. And once that's done, go rearrange the letters on the Hollywood sign to spell Catherine Wood. Let's give those producers a real reason to panic. Now guys, let's talk about the keto supplement that makes CKD patients avoid dialysis. Let me read a comment I just received. Wait, so if we take those keto supplements, does that mean we don't need protein anymore? And that we don't do dialysis? What about muscle though? Don't we need protein to keep our strength? Now, that is a fantastic question. Can a supplement really make protein unnecessary? And can that really help avoid dialysis? Let's start with the second part first. A keto supplement that helps stage 5 CKD patients avoid dialysis. Is that even real? Actually, yes. And the reasoning behind it is simple and backed by solid research. We now know that if a patient in stage 5 with almost no residual kidney function switches to a very low protein diet supported by the right supplements, they can stay off dialysis safely. Now, the study you see here compared two groups of stage 5 patients, those on dialysis and those on a very low protein diet plus supplements. And what they found, patients not on dialysis but using the supplement were actually less likely to die than those on dialysis. Let that sink in for a second. So, of course, I made a video about this whole study and the comment I'm answering today was in response to that video. Now, the point here is that, yes, we know that cutting protein almost completely and replacing it with a special supplement can save CKD patients from dialysis. And I'm talking about patients in the final stage of the disease with almost no residual kidney function. So this is why this question is very interesting. What if someone who maybe is not in stage 5 decides to take these special keto supplements instead of protein? Will that solve the whole protein issue completely? So the short answer to this part of the question is yes. In theory, if you could completely avoid protein and only take these special supplements called keto analogs, you will be perfectly fine and you will be able to keep your kidney function stable for a long time. Now, there is a reason why I said in theory here, and it's not because the supplement doesn't work. It does. It's because cutting enough protein is the hard part. Anyone can buy a keto analog supplement. Not everyone can follow a strict enough renal diet to make it work. So, can you make protein useless by taking a supplement? In short, the answer is yes, it's true. With these special supplements, you don't need protein and dialysis can be delayed by several years. However, it's not always easy because you need to follow a well-planned renal diet very strictly to achieve the goal of avoiding dialysis. If this sounds complicated or if you're thinking, okay, but how do I actually do this? That's where I can help. I work one-on-one with patients to design a renal diet that works in real life with real food, real supplements, and real results. A diet that people can actually follow. So, if you're ready to stop guessing and finally follow a plan that supports your kidneys, email me at catherine@newhopeforkidneypatients.com or just click the link in the description. Because we know that kidney disease can be stopped if you want to turn theory into practice, I can help you. Okay, let's move on. I received a very interesting comment in my recent video about one of the most underappreciated minerals in CKD treatment. This one is from Divine Magic 3333. And yes, she always comes up with great questions. Let me read it to you. How much magnesium is good for kidney health and which magnesium form is good? Yeah, told you this was going to be an interesting question. So, magnesium is probably the cheapest thing you can actually supplement, which comes with real benefit. For people with CKD, magnesium may not just help with muscle cramps, high blood pressure, anxiety, inflammation, and sleep problems. It may even improve insulin sensitivity. Oh, and some forms of magnesium even help bind phosphate, making them a kind of mineral double agent. Seriously, this is a mineral with main character energy, and you guys are absolutely right to be curious. But before we go hunting down the best magnesium supplement in the kingdom, here is the first rule. Magnesium supplements only help if you're actually deficient. Don't just run to the supplement aisle and start dry scooping magnesium like it's pre-workout, especially if you're in stage 4 or 5 of CKD. Always get tested first. That said, magnesium comes in approximately 7 million different forms, including citrate, hydroxide, aspartate, glycinate, biglycinate, L-threonate, carbonate, oxide, sulfate, and a few others only pronounceable by ancient druids or supplement influencers. So, how do you know which one to choose? Well, brace yourself. It's table time. So, here, you should be able to see the most commonly used form of magnesium and what they're actually useful for. So, which form of magnesium should you choose? Now, if you were hoping I'd recommend some ultra-rare Himalayan aged triple fermented magnesium that costs more than your last hospital bill, sorry to disappoint. The two most commonly used forms for CKD are still magnesium oxide and carbonate. And yes, I know, these forms aren't as trendy or absorbable as the magnesium L-glow-up threonate your favorite TikTok influencer is pushing. But here's the thing, when you talk to a healthcare provider, their primary rule is do not harm. But when you talk to an influencer, their motto is do not leave your credit card uncharged. So, which form of magnesium is best for you depends on your stage, phosphorus level, and if you need a laxative or not. And just to be clear, we don't usually give CKD patients those expensive, barely tested, influencer-approved formulas. Nope, we stick with the ones that are cheap, effective, and won't try to sell you a chakra crystal afterward. I mean, we don't even recommend magnesium citrate very often because it absorbs a lot better, which paradoxically is not a good thing for a CKD patient. It doesn't just need much closer monitoring, it will also have much less phosphate binding effect, if any. Speaking of which, I have a very interesting question about this issue that absolutely needs an answer. This one comes from Alicia Milam 5636. She asks, amazing woman, can you tell us how to lower phosphorus levels? Love your videos. Thank you, Alicia. And yes, let's talk about how to bring down phosphorus levels because this is one of the most important parts of managing CKD. Too much phosphorus doesn't just mess with your kidneys. It will literally turn your arteries into stone. Not metaphorically, not figuratively. I mean, actual mineral deposits in your arteries. Super fun, highly not recommended. And there are two strategies we will employ to get rid of this nasty toxin. First, follow a plant-based renal diet because you see, there are two ways you end up eating too much phosphorus. First, when you eat dairy, meat, and other animal-based foods. Second, when brand-used stuff such as phosphoric acid, sodium polyphosphate, pyrophosphate, polyphosphate, and anything else with phos-PH in the name as a preservative. So it's not enough to follow a plant-based diet. You also need to be careful with additives. Now I know some nutrition experts on the internet are still warning CKD patients to avoid whole grains, nuts, seeds because of their phosphorus content. But let's be honest, that's influencer nonsense. That's the nutritional equivalent of thinking carrots cause vision problems because Bugs Bunny wears glasses. What they don't tell you is that the bioavailability of plant-based phosphorus is as low as their credibility. And some of the foods I just mentioned, nuts, seeds, whole grains, are so healthy that removing them from the diet will cause way more problems than it solves. And of course, we also have phosphate binders. Most used are calcium carbonate, which is OTC, and sevelamer, which is a medication sold under the name Renagel and Renvilla. Which one of these is best for you depends on your stage of CKD and on your calcium levels. So, how do you lower your phosphorus levels? Well, first of all, always make sure your phosphorus levels are being tested and that they are in range, okay? If they are not, ask your doctor for a binder. And in any case, always follow a plant-based diet with CKD unless you want phosphorus to turn your arteries into stone. Okay, let's move on. Here's a question from Betty Ahyokai. Okay, let's move on. Here's a question from Betty Ahyokai. She asks, but dark chocolate has phosphorus that is not good for CKD patients. Yes, the classic phosphorus in chocolate myth, brought to you by the same people who believe that plants are trying to kill you and fruit causes diabetes. So let's set the record straight. Dark chocolate is under attack because someone somewhere decided that phosphorus is evil, no matter the context. And since cocoa has a bit of phosphorus, it's suddenly public enemy number one. Because clearly, the problem isn't red meat or processed cheese here. No. It's that teaspoon of cocoa powder you put in a veggie smoothie. Right. Let's take a look at the actual nutritional data, shall we? 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder has around 37 milligrams of phosphorus. And I mean, it's not like you need a whole tablespoon to get the antioxidant benefits. Dark cocoa is so full of the good stuff that even a couple of teaspoons will do. And since plant-based phosphorus isn't well absorbed, your body is getting maybe 10 milligrams tops. To put that in perspective, you probably absorb more phosphorus just thinking about grilled ribs. So in short, it's true that technically dark chocolate has a bit of phosphorus in it, but it's nothing to worry about if you eat it in moderation. Yes, I still recommend moderation with dark chocolate and even with cocoa powder. These foods are still calorie dense and they have some potassium and protein as well. Don't go overboard. But a tablespoon in a smoothie, that's not just fine, it's recommended. Why? Because cocoa is packed with flavonoids, polyphenols that are insanely good for your kidneys, blood vessels, heart, and probably your self-esteem too. Next question comes from Marimar2523 and it's a really important one. Here's the question. What about Tylenol? Is that not good for the kidney too? Now, this is an important question because, as most of you probably know already, most types of painkillers are not recommended for CKD patients. NSAIDs in particular are known to cause serious kidney damage. You know, stuff such as ibuprofen, naproxen, aspirin, and many others. Always avoid those. But of course, people don't take NSAIDs because they like the chalk taste. They take them because they need them. So what to do if you have kidney problems and need a painkiller? Well, one safer alternative is Tylenol or paracetamol. But please note that I said safer, not safe. Because you see, while Tylenol is cleared by the liver, not the kidneys, studies are still linking its use to some degree of kidney damage. So, should you use Tylenol at all? Well, occasional use of Tylenol at low doses is generally considered acceptable. However, higher doses and for longer periods of time may still cause kidney damage. So be careful with it as well. And completely avoid NSAIDs. Okay, let's move on. Another interesting question from a viewer called MST5158. Question, what if BUN is okay but protein in urine is high? Great question. So let's talk about how to read your lab reports. Now, both proteinuria and elevated BUN are signs of kidney damage, but they usually appear at different stages. So BUN, or blood urea nitrogen, is the amount of nitrogen we see in blood. Nitrogen is a mine canary, a warning that tells us that someone with CKD is eating too much protein. Proteinuria, or protein in urine, on the other hand, tells us that there is protein that's being spilled by the kidneys. Now, both these can be reduced by drastically cutting the amount of protein we eat, alright? But some people may think that since protein is only in urine and BUN is still in range, that's not time to start a low protein diet just yet. But well, that's not a good idea. You see, it's actually very common to have high protein in the urine while your BUN, or blood urea nitrogen, is still normal. For some patients, high protein in urine appears even before GFR starts to drop. In fact, protein in the urine is usually the first visible sign of kidney damage, alright? That said, what should MST 5158 do in your opinion? With high proteinuria and no other signs of kidney disease, what's the best strategy? Should you wait for kidney function to go really bad and for GFR to drop so you can see all the other values go high wire, including BUN, phosphorus, potassium bicarbonate, and all that? Or would you recommend taking action now and start cutting protein intake, start investigating the cause for kidney damage now that things are still manageable? Well, they say that it is always better to prevent than to cure, right? And I would add that this is even more relevant for a progressive disease like CKD that has no cure by definition. So yeah, my recommendation is, if you have proteinuria, don't wait for it to get worse. Take action now. Okay, since we are talking about the diet, here's another interesting question that needs an answer. The question is, my GFR is now 21% only. I have high uric acid and high sugar. What food can you suggest? So, what should you be eating if you have diabetes and kidney disease in the advanced stage? This is, of course, not an easy question, not just because designing a diet for a patient in the advanced stages of CKD is not the easiest task. Also because there is still a debate going on in the scientific community today. And this whole debate revolves around cutting protein intake for those with both diabetes and CKD. In fact, we know for sure today that CKD patients will greatly benefit from a low protein diet, a diet that completely removes any high protein food, including meat, fish, dairy, even legumes, and more. However, for people with diabetes and without CKD, protein seems to have a protective effect on the kidneys. Now, researchers and doctors from Italy have recently published a very important study to answer exactly the question, what should you eat with diabetes and CKD? And what they found out will frankly shock most of the scientific community. Yes, this study was that groundbreaking. In fact, thanks to their findings, diabetic patients with CKD will finally know what to eat without any more tubs. And if you want to know more about this, I recently made a video exactly about this study. It's up here and down in the description. And this is all for today. Thank you for watching. God bless you all. Bye-bye.